Hi, Jolene. What? It's
Hi.
okay. Let's forget about
Okay.
Hi, everyone. This is Jolene. We're trying to log on to Instagram, but anyway, I see people log on now. Hey, thank you everyone for joining. So yeah, this is Jolene. Jolene, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell me that's what you do today. We're gonna talk mainly about the topic about finances for
Mhm.
pre-law, pre-law and law students. So go ahead.
All right. So my name's Jolene Blackbourn, and I'm an attorney. Been an attorney for about 20 years, and I started advising pre-law and law students even back when I was in law school. So I advise them through the whole admission process and how to save money and how to do things a little easier, make things easier on themselves, things like that.
Got it. So, how long were you a lawyer, and what inspired you to go this route? And then I guess to finally quit, law school and everything. You know what? I'm gonna tag one of my friend while you speak. He pretty much got tired of corporate, and then also tried to build his business as well. So tell us like how was it live? Like what got you to like decide? You know what? This is not for me. I need to quit and then do this.
So, yeah, what first got me into this whole advising thing was actually when I was in law school. I ran the largest, most active organization on campus, and I really got to know my members. And so they would come to me with all their problems, their heartaches. I mean, they would just tell me what they were up to. And I started to see patterns. And so I started to advise others on the patterns that I saw. And so I never let that go. I always, did that even as I was practicing. I started practicing in 2002, and I practiced right up until last year. And then I went full time with this. I said, you know what? I'm tired of doing this on the side. I really just want to do this full time and really dedicate more time and energy to it because, as a lawyer, you don't have a lot of time for side interests. So it was always just a couple speeches a year and helping a few people, but I really saw a need for it. I mean, that need was always there, but I just decided to do it full time. And so that's what I do now. And yeah, the practice of law is great, but it is exhausting. It is time consuming. And, there does come a point, I think, for most people that they are tired, but there's not an easy way to go part time. There's not an easy way to back down. And so a lot of attorneys, they just trudge through until retirement. But, you know, there's some of us who say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to find a different route. So
Mhm.
that's where I exited and said, you know what? I've done this for 20 years. Let's move on.
Got it, got it. Yeah, okay, so tell us more about your services. Like, like so what are your typical clients? Like, how do you charge and all of that, So just so I don't know how many lawyers or pre-law students are listening right now. So just yeah, just give an idea like what are usually the best time to reach out to you, and then like how's your services like from the start to the finish, and then like when should they start thinking about reaching out to Jolene?
So I would say the earlier the better, but it's never too late. So going back even into high school, honestly, there are so many benefits of having a financial plan, right? I'm sure you can speak on that as well. For
Mhm.
anyone who is young, if they have a financial plan from the time that they are like 18, they can do so much better in life and be so much happier. And a lot of lawyers feel stuck in the practice of law because they're drowning in debt. And they're quite miserable because they can't go part time because of that debt. And so, what I try to do is get to people as early as possible to show them creative ways
Mhm.
to finance undergrad, finance law school. There are cheaper units out there. There's cheaper ways to do it. And, I can discuss that in a bit if you'd like. But yeah, there's
Mhm.
definitely a lot of tips that I can give them starting from high school all the way through the process. And then even, if they're in law school, there's still some ways to save a few bucks. And honestly, in the long run, when you add that compound interest and all that, it's going to add up to quite a bit, even if you're only saving a couple thousand.
Mhm. Got it. Got it. Wow. Wow. So I guess like okay, then I know you mentioned about, there's always this misconception, oh, lawyers make so much money, and then like but
Mhm.
then you guys have a lot of student loan debt. Like how much student loan debts are we looking at typically for a lot of lawyers?
So yeah, most are graduating with somewhere around 200,000 these days. It can be higher, if you
Yeah.
manage things well, it could be
Mhm.
less.
Mhm.
There are like I said, ways to keep that lower. And I'm not even talking about, scholarships. That's a whole nother thing that is great, but
Mm-hmm.
not everyone always qualifies for a scholarship. So,
Mm.
I try to help those other people as well, And so, yeah, I mean, when you're graduating with 200,000 in debt and then they add on that interest, it really adds up and you're paying what most of us call a mortgage, for 20
Yep.
years. So it's hard because you start making an income that is decent, but
Mm-hmm.
with the fact that you're paying so much to your student loans, your taxes say you should be buying a house, but your student loan says you already bought a house. And so then it's like your tax consultant is telling you you need to buy a house so you get tax benefits. And you're like, but I can't afford one because I can't hardly save because I am paying so much to my student loans and I'm not even trying to pay
Yeah.
them off early. I'm just paying them. So again, that's where that early financial consulting can really help to make
Mm-hmm.
sure, is there some other way you can do this so that you don't end up with that $200,000 bill?
Mm.
Just even things like, I've noticed that if people take a couple years off
Oh.
between undergrad and law school, yeah, again, it depends on their circumstances, but if they, let's say, can move back home and live there for
Mm.
2 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's
Yep.
not that much time off.
Mm-hmm.
You can save. I mean, they say right now the current income, average income for a undergraduate salary is 50,000. Even if you're not making 50,000, but let's just
Mm-hmm.
go ahead and assume 50,000, and you're able to move home. If you even save just
Mm-hmm.
half of that paycheck, that's 25 grand a year that you are saving. So after 2 years, you've saved up 1 year of law school. And it probably was not a big imposition. And believe me, that's what I did. So I can tell you it's not that big of an imposition. You can do it. Now, if you're not living at home, again, those numbers will change, things like that. But, where you live might make a difference. But
Mm-hmm.
how much you actually make if it's 40,000. But really,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years off can make a huge difference in your debt down the road so that when you graduate, you can take a job you like instead of a job you need.
Yep, yep. Wow. So, okay, so that's one big thing to do, like, take some time off, save a lot of money. But then even if they did save money, I mean, like, you think in 5 years they can save $200,000 to just pay off their law school? I mean, I don't know, maybe unless they made a lot of money, like, and then not
Right.
spend anything. So I don't know, like, maybe are you just
Yeah.
saying just so they can save half of it so they don't end up being $200,000 in debt?
It definitely depends. So,
Hmm.
if, for example, you're already married, that might make a difference as well.
Yeah.
And I know some married couples even have moved back in with mom and dad. So then you're living at home with mom and dad. Mom and dad agree, hey, for this law school bill to save you some money, yeah, we won't, charge you anything. Don't worry about it. So then you've got the spouse's income and you've got your own income. Again, let's say 3, 5 years, you could pay cash. There's definitely, it's hard. And obviously you would need to save more than half if you want to do it on a shorter time frame. But I've heard this story actually several times on the Dave Ramsey podcast.
Mhm.
I had done it myself. I had saved up enough for about 1 year of tuition,
Mhm.
but I never really thought to take more time off and save all of it. And
Mhm.
and it sounds impossible, but hearing it over and over again with the Dave Ramsey podcast, it's like, okay, it's not impossible. You just have to
Mhm.
figure it out. And that's where
Mhm.
taking a little time, doing some math, and then usually when I'm trying to do something that complicated, after I do the math, I'll meet with a financial advisor just to even double check. Is there anything
Mhm.
else I'm missing? Is there any other way I can, move that needle? So maybe I can go after 3 years instead of 5 years or whatever. But it definitely, the amount that you're paying up front for law school is a lot different than what you pay after because then you've got all that interest and, if you get stuck in a situation where you can't really pay, you defer and that interest adds on top. And I mean, we've had several situations where, even just in my career, I could have deferred. I graduated right after September 11th. There were no jobs. There was just no jobs. And so I considered deferring before I even made my first payment. And then 2008 hit, and luckily I had a good job at the time, but there were a lot of people out of work at that time. And that's
Mhm.
another opportunity that someone who graduated with me could have deferred. And
Mhm.
then right now, again, if people were out of work, this could be 3 times in your 20-year repayment plan that you had to hit that deferral button, which just adds more money, more interest. So the
Yep.
less you have in that pot,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
better you're gonna be at the end. So when people are like,
Yep.
"Well, it's fine, I'll just make more money and pay it faster." It doesn't work that way. It really
Yep.
doesn't.
Yep.
So it's better to just nip it in the bud in the beginning.
Yeah.
And if you can't figure it out, meet with some, that's part of what I do, but I'm also not a financial advisor. So I often recommend, if you're
Mhm.
looking for pure numbers, you can bounce it off me as far as the reality of law school life, but you also should talk to a financial advisor. So yeah.
Advisor or coach. Just-
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
so basically okay. So the 200 so the $200,000, yeah, that's a lot of money. That's almost 20-year mortgage. And then so like so yeah, tell me more about I guess like about the students, like, okay, so that's one option. What other options do they have, like in terms of
Yeah.
saving?
So
Mhm.
starting out from the very beginning, I'm going to go all the way back to high school.
Mhm.
You've got the early college high school programs now. So if you are entering high school, you can graduate from high school and get your associate's degree at the same time. And that saves you a lot of money. Then, even if you don't do that, you can take AP classes, right? Advanced placement classes. And if you pass those tests, that can save you about a year worth of your college money. And then there's things like classes at junior colleges are cheaper than
Mhm.
classes at the big
Mhm.
universities. So if you went straight to a big university and you are still a freshman or a sophomore, aside from summer school,
Mhm.
you can actually dual enroll as well. So
Mhm.
let's just say, like for me, what I did, and this was kind of a fluke, but it was something that taught me a lesson.
Mhm.
I took a science class at a junior college, and I
Mhm.
took it over the summer during
Mhm.
between freshman and sophomore year.
Mhm.
And I discovered if I had taken the lab that went with that class, I would have
Mhm.
checked off the box for a calculus level
Mhm.
class at
Yeah.
my university. And so here I am, senior year. I still haven't taken a calculus level course. I'm dreading it. And my
Mhm.
advisor tells me, well, if you've just taken that lab. And I said, well, can I take the lab now? And
Mhm.
she said, well, you're a senior, so you won't get the unit, but it's one unit. I don't care. If I'm getting out of a
Mhm.
calculus level class, sure, I'll
Mhm.
do it. So I
Yeah.
did it, and I was dual enrolled in a quarter system school and a semester system school.
Mhm.
But if you were to do that while you're in your freshman and sophomore year, not only taking summer school, but occasionally taking maybe a night class down at your local junior college, you could save a lot of money. Even though you're
Mhm.
just going straight into that big university, it's an option.
Mhm.
So there's lots of ways to save money, even just in that beginning first couple of years.
Mhm.
And then when you get up to like I said, for law school,
Mhm. Mhm.
taking time off, saving up, even if you save up for 1 year, I mean,
Mhm.
every bit makes a difference.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
go
So how
ahead.
good are the students with budgeting? Like, is that already, because like the basic foundation is budgeting. Like when I teach my clients is about, you have to track your expenses. Like the end of the day is it's about that, right? Because that's your foundation. Like how's your cash flow doing? So they have to pay attention. Like I mean, do you see anybody who like go to law school and they do budgeting, or like how aware are they usually about their finances?
It's interesting. I even noticed this in undergrad, where
Mhm.
my roommates and I would go shopping, and one would spend like $200 and one would spend $100, and then they'd be like, "Why didn't you buy anything?" I'm like, "Because I can't afford anything." you know. So
Mhm.
yeah, I don't see it ever. I've had a few friends that have said things to me before that indicate they budget, and it's always shocking to me because you just don't hear it a lot. And
Mhm.
I think people really need to be exposed to that a lot earlier. And I know there's been a big call for it in the high schools, and they really need to bring it in because the more you spend in college, I think they start to get lost in the sea of
Mhm.
debt. And then you add on law school, and they're just like, well, I'm going to have to pay all this back anyway, so I might as well add a credit card in there too. And
Mhm.
it's a really scary situation when
Yeah.
you can be facing, especially again in a bad economy, you could be facing bankruptcy, and yet
Mhm.
the majority of your debt, which is your student loans,
Mhm.
will not be
Mhm.
wiped out in that
Yeah.
bankruptcy. So it's like,
Yeah.
well, wait a minute, now there's no point to my bankruptcy because I can't even wipe out hardly anything, and yet
Mhm.
I can't pay any bills. So yeah,
Yeah.
I've not heard very much on budgeting. So I think the sooner they do it, and, even if they
Mm-hmm.
just check in once a year with someone to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that they're kind of on track, that they know
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing, that they ask any questions, and some basic software will get you through the basics of
Yep.
learning budgeting. There's so many
Yeah.
apps out there. I mean, I know
Yeah.
the first one I was exposed to was Mint, and I know there's a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of other ones out there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it's, even if you're not used to balancing a checkbook, I mean, that's what we
Mm-hmm.
used to do before online banking and
Yeah.
way back in the day.
Exactly.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So I do have Mint too, but I think like when I teach my clients is about proactively tracking their goals. Because like Mint, I feel is more reactive. It's more like, okay, what have you done so far? So proactive, more like, I just use a simple budget or pen and paper, whatever. So for me, I like Excel, so I use Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheets, and then I even create an online course about that. People, they don't know where to start. And then, but there's also YNAB. There's also Every Dollar. I think from Dave Ramsey did Every Dollar, but I haven't really dived into that. Although I do have clients who doesn't like Excel, so they have to use YNAB, right? So but that's okay. Whatever works for them. But
right.
but yeah, it does very important. So now let me ask you, it's like with all this debt in law school, and then some people end up quitting law school, like. So what do you think? Is it still worth it to go there? Like, if sorry, I'm not trying to like say anything against like people who want
Right.
to be lawyers, but then like, I mean, like, if you're gonna accumulate 200, 300K, and then like you're gonna be negative net worth for a while, and I don't know how long does it take some people to be negative net worth, and then so it's like, is it still worth it to go to law school? Like, if you like,
Yeah.
what do you think about it personally? Like I feel like people who don't go, like they just have an undergrad, they might have, because when I finished undergrad, like I literally owe only a couple $100s, because like I had grants, and then what I pay out of pocket was really just a few $100s. So I didn't have much debt coming out of college. So
Yeah.
so my net worth grew faster, because then I didn't go back to grad school, whatever. And then now even my business, I don't need a grad degree. Like, I
Right.
think like when you're a business owner, you don't really need any degree per se. You just have to be very good entrepreneurs. Like all this digital market, like digital people, they took
Yeah.
advantage, they learned. So what do you think? I mean,
It's so true. It's what I try to do with the people that encounter me is I try to have them look at law school in different ways,
mm,
because I think a lot of times we just see what's on TV, and
mm,
and we acknowledge, well, okay, yeah, I understand it's a little different than that, but they don't really
mhm,
understand what it's really like, and it's extremely wearing. And then yes, you don't
mhm,
make a lot of money, you make a lot less, and I share with them a lot of other salaries, like you were saying.
mhm,
So for example, um, there was a graph that came out, a statistic that came out a few
mhm,
years ago, like I think it was 2016, and it showed
mhm.
that the average income for an attorney was $82,000, which is not very much when
Which
you're.
area? Which area?
This was nationwide, so obviously the people in LA and New York are making
Mhm,
more, but and people in the Midwest not so much. But at the same time, that's a little scary, and it's very real, because even attorneys in LA, I can tell you that between, let's see, in LA, between 2000, I think it was, there was an attorney in 2005 and an attorney in 2012. They both started in the same industry in LA, and they were making the same starting income straight out of
mhm.
law school. So
Wow.
in all that time, the income didn't change for an entering attorney.
Mhm,
So, the debt is going up, the law schools are charging more, but the law firms are not paying more. So that's a little scary, and that's a very real statistic. It's
mhm.
very, you know, I don't think people realize nonprofit attorneys, they start out by making like 40,000, 50,000. It's
Wow.
like, well, wait a minute, that's the average income of a college graduate, and I just paid 200,000. I mean, I hope that person, went to school for free, because it's really
Wow.
scary. So yeah, I try to encourage them to explore other options and just think about it,
So
because
you're
it's not.
telling them not to be a lawyer, not to go to law school
Just
anymore.
think very carefully. Yeah, it's either
Okay.
you think about your other interests and options and explore them a
Mhm,
bit, or make a good financial plan. It's one or the other. Don't just go. And that's what a lot of people do. They think that I graduated from high school, I must go to college, I must go to law school, I can't take time off. I must go straight through. But if you go
Mhm.
straight through, you graduate by the time you're 26 and
Mhm.
you're an attorney for what, 50 years? That's a long time to do a
Mhm.
job. Why
Mhm.
not spend 5 years just having some fun working in retail? I mean, who really cares? Just go have some fun
Mhm.
and just, have a stress-free life for a couple of years. And
Mhm.
even if that's, obviously you don't want to stay in retail for more than 5 years, fine. That's great. Then go back to law school. But,
Mhm.
it's still going to be there for 45 years. So it's
Mhm.
there's no rush. And, who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe you'll come across something that you like even more,
Yeah.
something you didn't know existed. And honestly,
Yeah.
most of the jobs now that exist didn't exist when I was in undergrad. There were no podcasters, there were no
Mhm.
bloggers and things like that. Those things didn't exist when I was in college. And so
Mhm.
all these bloggers that make more money in their living room, and I'm sitting
Mhm.
here drowning in debt type of thing. It's very frustrating. And there's a
Mhm.
lot of jobs that I saw that a regional manager of the Girl Scouts, and it was just a small district, not even like big.
Mhm.
This was in Texas. She was making 100,000. And I'm thinking, well, your dollar goes pretty far in Texas, and they don't have income tax in Texas, so you keep that whole 100,000. And she didn't pay for law school. This person did, but there's the Girl Scouts promotes everybody. It's not based off of you have to be a lawyer or anything like that. But they had engineers that were there. They had teachers that were there. They had all these different people, moms that were just promoted, and things like the in and out managers. They make about 120,000. They have really good benefits, and my understanding is they are flown, or certain managers are flown to Europe every year. And it's like, well, wait a minute. That sounds kind of nice. And that's 120. That's more than the average attorney income. And again, they don't have that debt. So there's all these things that, okay, maybe I don't want to be an in and out manager, but maybe I should look around and just double check what I'm doing with my life before I go down that path and spend 200,000 and now I'm stuck. So, yeah, and I've actually been conducting a lot of interviews for pre-law students from showing attorneys who have left the law in less than 10 years, because it is actually fairly common. People get burnt out, they realize it's not for them, and it's like, well, you just spent 200,000 to discover after 5 years that you want to leave. That's it's
Mhm.
rough.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's definitely not a path for everybody, but for some people, it's the only path. That is all they want to do, and that's fine. That's great. Just be sure and find a
Yep.
good financial way to do it.
Yep. Yep. Wow. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, or just be an entrepreneur. Go to entrepreneur school.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, the skills that a lawyer gets, they become excellent writers, speakers, debaters, all these things.
Mhm.
If you were to pay someone a course,
Mhm.
$10,000 for each of these traits, so that you could be a great debater and you could be a great writer and a great speaker and all these things, that's way less than a law degree. So I've read articles that say, oh, yeah, a law degree is good even if you don't become a lawyer. And I'm sitting here going, why would I pay 200,000 when I could pay maybe 50,000 and hire 5 experts to give me all those skills that make me a great writer and speaker and so forth?
Mhm.
And I mean, of course, before I went to law school, I never thought like that. But now that I've paid all this money, I'm like, wait a minute. And actually, it's been done before. Tim Ferriss is a well known entrepreneur, and he didn't go to business school. He decided, I'm just going to collect some money and I'm going to pay my grad school money to these entrepreneurs and business people. And I'm going to learn from the best of the best. And I'm going to learn practical skills instead of theoretical skills, and have a
Mhm.
basically better degree. It's just that I can't write it down on my resume, whatever. But it's
Mhm.
like, well, that's brilliant. Like
Mhm.
I kind of wish somebody had talked to me about that before I went to law school. Maybe I would have rethought some stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I know. It's like I have clients who got her master's. She now have like 80, 90K in debt, and then she doesn't make much money either. So it's like it makes me wonder. It's like, yeah, is school really worth it? I think like if you really learn how to be an entrepreneur, but then the thing is that if you don't have the hustler mind, entrepreneurial mind, then it's like it's gonna be hard for you to make a living. Because like like we're entrepreneurs, we have to hustle, right? We can't
Yeah.
just sit here not do marketing, not do anything, and it's
Right.
you're not going to go anywhere. Okay, so you have to keep showing up. So but if not everybody's like that, so some people are they want the structure of the company, so they are meant to be employees, and that's fine. So if they're going to be employees, the thing is that it's going to be hard for them to move up unless they have at least a grad degree. If you unless like they're just okay being an analyst or worker, then that's fine. They probably just need undergrad or not even an undergrad. But if you want to move up, I mean, you have to work really hard. I had a senior director. I think he was even a high school graduate, but he was working really, really hard. That's how he got to become senior director. And that's like the next level is VP. But he said he couldn't be a VP because when he tries to apply, it's just that he just felt he was always constantly being judged for not having a graduate degree. So
Right.
in corporate world, it's just sad, right? So I mean, I don't know if you're happy, senior director, whatever. So then that's on you, right? So yeah. Anyway,
No,
I'm also on the
it's so
same page,
true.
yeah,
Yeah,
with
it's
you.
so
So.
true. You have to figure out, I try to help people see what is it about being a lawyer that calls to you. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously a lot of people want to help others and that kind of thing, but do you also, you can
Mhm.
admit it to yourself. Do you want that prestige? Do you want that title? The
Mhm.
minute somebody says that title, they're like, ooh,
Mhm.
that kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Yep.
Because, yeah, then when you don't go to law school, you'll never have that, right? You'll never have
Yep.
that immediate wow.
Yes.
But,
Exactly. Yep.
I mean, there's still impressive titles out there,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
people don't always know what they mean and things like that. Or
Yeah.
the title sounds okay, but they don't realize how
Yeah.
significant it is.
Exactly. Yep.
So
Yep. It's.
if you're never going to be happy with anything other than this title, then again, fine, pay the money. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's other law schools that are cheaper. Traditionally, online schools and non ABA approved schools are cheaper. And I think a lot of people don't even look at those because, they want to go to a good school and, all that stuff. But, what are you really planning to do? Do you have to go to an ABA approved school? Because you might do better at one of these other schools that is a lot cheaper.
Mhm.
Again, there's a lot
Yeah.
of pros and cons. That's a whole hour in itself, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
but it's just that people don't really think outside the box too much. And I
Mhm.
really try to spend quality time figuring out,
Mhm.
are you dedicated to this region of the United
Mhm.
States? Can
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
maybe go somewhere else because we can save you money there? And yet you could have a higher rank school. I mean, there's so many options out there, and people just get into a funnel and they think that they can't wiggle. And there's always room to wiggle. There's always room to save an extra dollar and achieve that dream without killing yourself in debt. So yeah, it can be very difficult to see it if you haven't already
Mhm.
been through it. So that's what I
Mhm.
provide, is
Yep.
that
Yep.
kind of hindsight vision for them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, okay. Yeah, no, this is interesting. So yeah, so yeah, let people know how can they find you if they wanna or like work with you. Like, I mean, I know you're on LinkedIn, you're on
Mhm.
Facebook, I think you're on Instagram too. So where
Yes.
can they find you? Like, what kind of content do you normally put out for people?
So normally I'm putting out things about money. That's a big thing for me. And then just also some other considerations, things like good
Mm-hmm.
programs to find out
Mm-hmm.
there. I have a Facebook group. It's called
Okay.
Pre-Law Advisory Group. So that's where I put
Mm.
the majority of
Okay.
my content.
Okay.
You can find me at joleneblackbourn.com.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also on TikTok if you want a little fun.
You
you
are
know?
on TikTok. What do you do?
Oh,
Like,
yes.
what do you do
Yeah.
on TikTok? Dancing? Like,
Oh,
I
God.
don't get it.
No dancing.
Oh.
No. So yeah, I do have a lot of fun. I actually had, my first viral post last week, so that was a lot of fun.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's
Mhm.
been exciting to watch
So
things
cute.
grow,
Yeah, yeah,
especially when
yeah.
it's just having fun, right? Making jokes and things like that. So it's not content rich, although it does have tips, but you're limited to a short bite there. So, but
Uh,
feel free to check me out there. I'm everywhere, pretty much as the Legal Learning Center, except for places like LinkedIn where you
okay.
need to
Yep.
use your name. Like,
Personal. Yep, yep, yep.
yeah,
LinkedIn is gonna be your personal profile. So everywhere else is legal learning on you said Instagram, Facebook, YouTube too or no?
not YouTube.
Okay. TikTok
Um,
legal learning as well.
yes,
Okay,
and then
okay.
yeah, the pre-law advisory group
And the pre-law
for the Facebook
advisory
group.
for Facebook group. So
Yeah.
yeah, I you guys have all that information, and then feel free to connect with Jolene here on LinkedIn, and then yeah, let me see if there's any more questions. Okay, Michael said. I'm 65K in school loans. School only helped me for a little bit. Most of my learning has been outside school. Yep, Michael. I'm just like, just forget school. Okay, never mind. I'm just kidding. And then find a cheaper way for school. So I actually I had a I had a guest. He was the university president, and then Dr. Joe Salustio. So he was saying that they offer all online. So it's actually you can get, I think, I don't remember exactly, maybe 20 grand for a master's degree MBA. So I think that's very cheap. So I think like if you have options, just go for the online degree. You don't need to be so attached to like, oh yeah, I gotta go from UC Berkeley or whatever, Harvard and then stuff, because like those are not cheap. So but anyway, if it's worth it. So yep, someone even people tell me, financial advisor says that you always have to look at the school as a business decision. Is this gonna be a good business? What is the ROI? Okay, so I
Yes,
think
no one looks at it like that
yep,
at all.
yeah. So you wanna like like just see, and then like yeah, and then just do an analysis. What's the ROI? Maybe you can just work and then study, and then maybe that's not a bad thing. Then your net worth's not gonna go down, because if you stop working, it's just gonna go down, right?
Well,
Yeah.
and law school will always be there. So if you
Mhm.
literally cannot make a life for yourself, you're just
Mhm.
miserable, then
Mhm.
you can go back. It's there. It'll be okay.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
it's not
Exactly.
going anywhere.
Exactly. Okay. So everyone, I hope you guys found this really if you guys know anyone who need help with like pre-law law people who thinking of law school, and then yeah, and then just talk to Jolene first and see if that's the right decision, in life or financially. So yeah, Jolene, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.